You don't choose your family. They are God's gift to you, as you are to them. Forgiveness says you are given another chance to make a new beginning. God's dream is that you and I and all of us will realize that we are family, that we are made for togetherness, for goodness, and for compassion. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Without forgiveness, there's no future. But God can only smile because only God can know what is coming next. We are each made for goodness, love, and compassion. Our lives are transformed as much as the world is when we live with these truths. The God who existed before any religion counts on you to make the oneness of the human family known and celebrated. And every human being is precious. Peace comes when you talk to the guy you most hate. And that's where the courage of a leader comes. I certainly know that I would not be able to survive if it were not for the fact that I am being upheld by the prayers of so many people. God is patient with us to become the God's children He wants us to be, but you really can see Him weeping. For Christians, who believe they are created in the image of God, it is the Godhead, diversity in unity, and the three-in-oneness of God, which we in all creation reflect. I've never doubted that apartheid, because it was of itself fundamentally, intrinsically evil, was going to bite the dust eventually. A person is a person because he recognizes others as persons. Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. If you want peace, you don't talk to your friends. You talk to your enemies. Your ordinary acts of love and hope point to the extraordinary promise that every human life is of inestimable value. I am not interested in picking up crumbs of compassion thrown from the table of someone who considers himself my master. I want the full menu of rights. Inclusive, good quality education is a foundation for dynamic and equitable societies. As human beings, we have the most extraordinary capacity for evil. We can perpetrate some of the most horrendous atrocities. When you think of the sort of things that happen when a genocide happens, it's again not people who are intrinsically evil. How could you have a soccer team if all were goalkeepers? How would it be an orchestra if all were French horns? We inhabit a universe that is characterized by diversity. The universe can take quite a while to deliver. In God's family, there are no outsiders, no enemies. People often speak of God being even-handed. God is not even-handed. God is biased, in favor of the weak, of the despised. Do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. My humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together. Isn't it amazing that we are all made in God's image, and yet there is so much diversity among His people? Exclusion is never the way forward on our shared paths to freedom and justice. We may be surprised at the people we find in heaven. God has a soft spot for sinners. His standards are quite low. God is not upset that Gandhi was not a Christian, because God is not a Christian. All of God's children and their different faiths help us to realize the immensity of God. God's love is too great to be confined to any one side of a conflict or to any one religion. Children are a wonderful gift. They have an extraordinary capacity to see into the heart of things and to expose sham and humbug for what they are. I am a leader by default, only because nature does not allow a vacuum. When we see the face of a child, we think of the future. We think of their dreams about what they might become and what they might accomplish. You stand out in the crowd only because you have these many carrying you on their shoulders. Hate has no place in the house of God. It is our moral obligation to give every child the very best education possible. I think that most of us would prefer to be popular than unpopular. If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor.